Hi, I'm Diamond, and I just hit 10,000 days played in my Minecraft Forever world. So sit back, grab your popcorn, and enjoy the story of how everything started, how I almost deleted this world forever, and how I managed to get to day 10,000 with so many builds, farms, and memories in this world. If you like this video, please consider liking, it's free, and consider subscribing. It really does help this channel out a lot. Now let's get on with the story of how I reached day 10,000. When I entered this world for the first time, I spawned on this tiny island in the middle of an ocean, and the first thing I did was make a small house in the side of this hill. I made my first mob farm here until I found this mob spawner hidden underneath the island. And this island is where I first went to the Nether and defeated the dragon in the end for the first time too. As with most long-term survival worlds, I outgrew this small house on a hill fairly quickly, and already had big plans for the future. I knew early on in this world that I wanted my main base to be inside of an ocean monument, so after beating the dragon, I got started draining this monument for the first 1,000 days of this world. Initially, it was only a small drained area, only encompassing the monument itself, but I soon realised I wanted to add farms here, so I made the area more than twice as large and kept draining the water around it. Originally, this lush village I've called Atlantis wasn't here. It was all just farms for things I needed, like sugarcane, trees, and at one point it was a guardian farm too. Inside the monument, I had my first ever automated storage system, but it was seriously lacking in storage variety, only storing basic items, constantly breaking, and I outgrew it really quickly. Now, it's home to a fully functioning village, with custom houses, and villagers with every profession, each with their own decorated and dedicated house. Underneath the monument itself, I added a custom marketplace for different items in the game, like a butcher's market, a flower stall, and even a geode stand that, underneath it, hides a functioning amethyst farm, which I use for tinted glass whenever I need it. Inside the monument itself, I removed the old storage system I used to have here and replaced it with a huge map room, showing off all of my builds in this world. I do have plans for the future of this build, which I'll get into more at the end of the video. It was when I first used this build for farms, and as an over-the-top starter base, that I nearly deleted this world due to one simple, yet horrible and avoidable error. One day when building the glass walls around this monument, I was flying above the monument when I got a knock on my front door for a delivery I was expecting. And I made the huge mistake of, instead of pausing the game, opening my inventory. When I came back, I realized I'd kept flying. I'd hit the ocean, fallen to the ocean floor, and drowned. I didn't know what direction I was flying. I didn't know how far I'd flown. And after getting the one spare elytra I had, and flying around for what seemed like hours, I realized I'd lost everything. All of the enchanted tools and armor that I'd just spent hours gathering. And it was in this moment that I quit the game, and for a while, contemplated deleting the world and starting over, as I'd done many times before. But something in my mind told me that it was a bad idea, that I'd done so much already. I'd already drained the monument and made so much progress building the decorated glass walls, and that it was too much to throw away over one silly mistake. This death shaped the next 2,000 days in my forever world. But at the time, I saved and quit the game, and I didn't open this world again for nearly a full year. When I came back to the game, I decided to give myself a huge project, while at the same time making sure I'd never need to make another storage system again. I, by hand, over the course of 2 months, mined every piece of endstone in the center island and all of the obsidian pillars where the dragon fight was, and I took down an entire dark oak forest to get all of the chests and hoppers I'd need to build my storage system, the Nexus. A system that can automatically store every stackable item in the game. I built a witch farm for the sheer amount of redstone I would need, and I more recently upgraded it to include auto crafting for redstone blocks, along with a sculpt catalyst to absorb all of the experience that I no longer needed, thanks to a far more efficient guardian farm that I built a few hundred blocks away from Atlantis. I also wanted to include a lot of pearlescent frog lights in this build, so I found a nearby treasure bastion and used the magma cube spawner to create a farm. And after making the farm, I've used frog lights in almost all of my builds. Since building it years ago, with far better redstone than the storage system I had inside the Ocean Monument, I've had zero issues, no item loss, and it hasn't broken once. In the last 1,000 days more recently, the time finally came to upgrade it, and I simply added a third floor, increasing the overall capacity by 50%. And as soon as the Chaos Cubed update is feature complete, I'll start moving everything around and adding items from the past year of drops, something I've neglected to do until now. I also built a ring made out of calcite around the storage system to give me easier access to the 20 end gateways where I knew I would start building next. Around day 3000, I decided to ensure that if ever I were to die again, either by my fault, a hostile mob, or a complete accident, I would make sure that I would always be able to get back any tools or armor I lost within half an hour, and to do that, I built the Emerald City, a villager trading hall in the end, through one of the end gates, with every possible enchantment trade at the cheapest possible emerald cost. So in combination with the raid farm I've just built, buying books became insanely cheap, and now I have a stockpile of every enchanted book, making getting the best armor and tools effortless. On the bottom layers, I added other villagers with trades for items I get in bulk through regular gameplay while exploring, like rotten flesh, sticks, and various crops. I also added displays for every armor trim, all the decorative pottery shards, and music discs at the top layer of this emerald-laced, upside-down pyramid in the sky, but I'm yet to add the more recent discs like Tears or Lava Chicken. Because I'd built up my end dimension to contain my ultimate storage system, and I knew I'd be travelling there often, I decided to tear down these hills and destroy the village, and built an entrance to my end that was far better than just a hole in the ground. And after throwing down some Haste 2 beacons, it only took me a few weeks to dig all the way down to the end portal. Once I got the shape that I wanted, I filled in the walls with blackstone, added crests on each side, and lighting on the floors and on the walls. I decided to make this entrance extra special by adding 4 areas above the portal. One for the main Dragon Island, one for the outer end islands, one for an end ship, and the best feature of this build in my opinion, a 1-to-1 exact replica of an end city. Building this end portal opened up new opportunities for me, and in a few thousand days, I would be able to more easily bring over all of the mobs that were able to go through portals, all the way to the outer end islands for a mob zoo, which I did build later in the world, and I'll talk more in depth about that soon. It was around this time I also built my shulker farm, so I could move thousands of blackstone I'd harvested from netherite mining tunnels, where I used the primitive method of bed mining to build up the walls of the gateway. As my builds started to get larger in scale, and I wanted to change Atlantis from an overworld farming area to a functioning populated village, I knew my farms had to be a lot larger in scale to match that, and I needed a new area for them. So I decided to go through an end gateway and build a giant city that I've called Arcadia. The name felt fitting because it looks very neon and full of bright colours in the darkness of the end, and I wanted to add a beautiful centerpiece in the town square of this city. I set about slowly gathering 96 beacons and to do that, I had to cover a huge portion of the nether in stone slabs to control mob spawns and get a steady supply of wither skeleton skulls. I made a 96 slice pie chart and layered it over a grid, and placed a beacon every time a line went through the centre of a square. And now, if I stand in the middle of this town square, press this button and look directly up, I get a perfect circle of rainbow beacons. The most useful farms in this city are the kiln, a fully automated furnace array powered by dried kelp blocks, which are automatically smelted down and crafted. My automated potion factory, perfect for night vision, fire resistance, and for any project I'm currently working on. I also built a far more efficient sugarcane farm, and in the overworld, a creeper farm, and now getting a full shulker box worth of fireworks only takes a few minutes. In order to get the insane amount of black concrete needed for all of these buildings, I built a squid farm above Atlantis, which gets me enough black ink to make a new farm and a new building in only a few hours. All of the farms I've built in Arcadia have automated shulker loaders, making great use of the farm I'd built 1,000 days prior in helping with the gateway. And since building all of these farms, I've never had to worry about most building materials ever again, turning my survival world into a complete creative sandbox. It was during the construction of Arcadia where I had a true full circle moment, a realization that carrying on in this world after losing everything was the right call, because one day I was flying around my world collecting resources and I saw something shining in the waters, thousands of blocks away from Atlantis, and it was my old gear. All of the tools and armor that I'd lost, some way, somehow, had lasted in the water for thousands of days, unloaded for all of this time, and I got it all back. I felt happy and relieved at the same time, not just because I'd got all of my gear back, but because I didn't quit forever. I just closed the game for a while and came back to it many months later and carried on. It was in that moment that I decided that this world would never be deleted, and I would keep building bigger and better each time. After making the entrance to my end beautiful, I turned my attention to the nether entrance. Until around day 6000, I had a regular nether portal, still on the island I spawned on, and it felt left out in comparison to my end gateway. So, I worked on making it better. I decided to completely take down the island that I spawned on, and added every nether biome to the surface, including a small lava lake and ominous towers looming over the portal. To add more of an atmosphere to the build, I added a redstone device at the top of the two medium-sized towers, so every time it rains and the redstone is powered on, lightning will continue to strike the towers, giving this build the fitting name of Doom Island. I added skeletal remains in the Soul Sand Valley, littered black stone and nether gold ore around the lava lake, as well as making the portal itself look like a sword piercing through the land. A common design for portals nowadays, and when I did eventually build more in the nether, I extended the sword design through to the other dimension. One thing I always wanted to do in this world is create a mob zoo, and since I'd already included the Emerald City, Arcadia, and my storage system in the end, I decided to build this zoo in the end too. I first settled on a design for each holding cell, and the materials I'd need to make the pathways. The Garden Awakens update had just released, so I decided to build a resin farm, and used my potion factory alongside my super smelter to get all of the resin bricks I needed, and used my second villager trading hall in Arcadia to trade for all of the quartz I'd need. This build is a little more effort than just adding mobs at random into each cell though, because if you follow the path from the gateway entrance, all the mobs that are in this zoo are laid out in order of addition to the game, all the way up to the newest mobs like the Happy Ghast. Speaking of ghasts, the normal ghast was a real challenge to get into the end, and I had to use a precisely placed nether portal right next to an end portal just to get it into the end to begin with, and then I had to move it as quickly as possible away from my storage system. The hardest mobs by far though have to be the Phantom, which took multiple attempts because it kept flying out of the cell, and the Elder Guardian, which took building an entire tunnel underneath an ocean monument to get here. And on Bedrock Edition, the mining fatigue effect happens instantly when in range, even after drinking a milk bucket. The only mobs that I haven't included in this build are the Dragon, Warden, and Wither, as they can be hostile toward other mobs and destroy the area. I also recently decided to add a bridge across the end that I originally built back in an old Xbox 360 edition world. Now that the Happy Gas is in the game, future mobs should be far easier to transport here. After my world became more expanded and included farms that were thousands of blocks away in the overworld and nether, like my raid farm, Froglight farm, and Wither Skeleton farm, I felt like I needed to create a nether hub. Nearly 8,000 days into this world, sure, but better late than never. I started by coming up with a design, and like almost all of my builds in this world, I design first and worry about getting the materials for it as an afterthought. And this nether highway system included a lot of warped logs, trapdoors, and skulls. I started by getting the warped log, and instead of designing a farm specifically to get those blocks, I decided to manually bone meal them, and harvest the shroom lights too. I made a bone meal farm a few thousand blocks away in a mangrove forest, and after I'd gathered enough wood, designed my own Enderman-powered skulk farm in Arcadia. I did make an ice farm in the overworld, but because of the sheer amount of blue ice needed to connect everything together, I eventually just mined packed ice from icebergs. I connected nether portals to my builds, and even added a secret entrance to the nether from my end gateway, using a piston trapdoor. And after I'd linked everything together, I added a piglin bartering farm to one of the sides of the nether hub, and more recently, I opened up one side of the tunnel and added a netherite tunnel boring machine, which I've already used for over 1,000 blocks, getting me stacks of the most valuable resource in the game. Between days 8 and 9,000 is when I started streaming my Forever World for the first time, and the first big project I embarked on was terraforming an entire island into a desert, and building a huge desert temple in the centre. This island was once a dark oak forest, the same forest that I'd already deforested, for the most part, to use as chest materials for my Nexus, and at one point had a failed attempt at an iron farm built on the island, but I took that down before I started to add sand. I used a newly discovered sand duping mechanic in Bedrock Edition to cover the island in sand over the course of a few weeks, and got to work building the 90 by 90 desert temple out of blackstone. I knew I wanted the inside corridors to be lined with gold and gilded blackstone, so as well as using my bartering farm, I also raided and completely cleared out areas of multiple bastions that had the most gilded blackstone. To barter with the piglin in the bartering farm that I'd made alongside the nether hub, for the amount of blackstone needed for this project, I decided to take down my old, less efficient gold farm and rebuilt a far more effective one in its place, right next to my guardian farm. This gold farm is now the fastest way in my world to repair my tools, which is also a great bonus. Inside the temple, I have multiple display rooms that I plan to slowly fill with treasure, but you'll have to subscribe and stick around to find out what I plan on putting in here. The top room in this temple is filled with rare treasure blocks, like gold, diamond, and emerald blocks, as well as some deep slate coal, and if ever I'm able to find deep slate emeralds, a block that's evaded me the entire time I've had this world, this is exactly where I plan to display it. The lowest floor of this temple is home to a crypt, where for every death I have in this world from here on out, I plan to fill in the date and reason for the death on the signs. I only have one sign filled in so far, which was, quite ironically, a death via TNT trap inside a desert temple. This latest build is something I started not long after passing 9,000 days in this world, and so far it's by far the biggest project I've ever done. I upgraded my already overpowered creeper farm just to be able to make the sheer amount of TNT needed to clear all of the land above this ancient city, and I've almost finished using it to clear the top layers of terrain. I've done multiple streams on this build and progress has been slow and steady, but consistent, and I decided to mine the final 10 or so layers of deep slate by hand, for two reasons. First, because I plan on using the deep slate on the walls stretching from the bottom to the top of the surrounding dark oak forest above, and second, because deep slate is one of the only stone variants that isn't renewable, and I'm hoping that once this city is fully revealed, I'll never have to mine for deep slate again. The overall plan for this build is to first expose the city in its entirety to the sky, then build up the walls and completely transform the area into a lush green paradise, with villagers populating this once abandoned city, which is why I can now reveal that this build, once complete, will become known as the City of Verdania. I still have so much progress to make on this build, so feel free to follow along as I transform the area into something beautiful. In the future of this world, I do have some ideas as to what to build next, like a giant ice castle or city around my creeper farm, to complete the Golden Temple and finally fill in each room, to expand Atlantis and add a beautiful coral reef around the outside, and, in the end, add more farms to Arcadia. I haven't yet added anything to the west gate of my end, and through it there's an old bugged out gateway that repeats itself all the way to the build limit, and I'd love to add a structure here, maybe a giant statue, maybe something else. Mojang have been slowly teasing us with a new major update in the future. Maybe it is an end update, maybe a new dimension through the ancient city portal. Who knows, maybe my next mega project will involve completely new blocks and ideas from future updates. This has been the story of my Minecraft world, the highs, the lows, and the celebration of hitting the 10,000 day milestone. If you've enjoyed this video, please like and consider subscribing, it really means a lot. Comment what your favourite build was, I'd really love to know. I've been Diamond, and until next time, thank you for watching.